So somebody asked me the other day, Ben, why do I need a buyer's agent? I can just go straight to the seller's agent and then talk to the seller directly. And that got me thinking, if only they knew the pros and cons and specific scenarios of when that would be applicable. So today we're going to answer that question on, do you need a buyer's agent in today's market to get a deal done? And when I'm explaining that, I'm also going to be changing the oil in my truck. So come along for the ride. So if you don't already know me, my name is Ben, but I'm also known as the Cowboy Realtor, bringing you city smarts and country charm. I've helped dozens of families and investors buy and sell real estate in both Washington and Oregon. And buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make in your life, sometimes ever. So let's talk about whether you really need representation when purchasing a home. And I'm also a part-time mechanic, but that is not by choice. So first, let's talk about what even is a buyer's agent. And a buyer's agent is a licensed real estate agent who represents you, the buyer. And their job is to represent you and your best interests, also to negotiate on your behalf, and then also to guide you through that process and using their knowledge and expertise and resources to get you to the closing table. I think Crocs should come out with a set of cowboy boots, just saying. So let's talk about some pros of having a buyer's agent. Number one is their local knowledge of the market. And that's based on prices, trends, and also red flags. Will I get oil on me? Hopefully not. Take your bets now in the comments. Is Ben gonna get oil on him or the ground? 3, 2, 1. Oh no! Another pro for having a buyer's agent is negotiating power. Agents negotiate on repairs, closing costs, and price. Another pro that some people overlook is having access to these properties in the first place. Because you can't even go into a home without an agent unless it's an open house. And those are few and far between sometimes. That's going to be hard to access those properties. Those are MLS listings, off-market listings, and also coordination between the listing agent and the seller to get you in the door in the first place. Another pro is having guidance through the paperwork and contracts that you are legally obligated and tied to when you're in a transaction. So those are contracts, contingencies, and deadlines. Another pro is that representation is typically, for the most part, free. The seller, 9 times out of 10, pays my commission. I've never had a seller not pay my commission on the buyer side because it's in their best interest to pay a buyer's agent to bring them a buyer. However, they are not legally, or they do not have to, pay the buyer's agent fee. But again, that's all negotiable. And I have countless stories of my buyers saying, Ben, thank goodness you told us about the contract. We didn't know XYZ. Or, oh, Ben, thank you for connecting us with a local contractor that does a great job. You know, he was on the spot and able to hit our deadline. Like, those things matter in a transaction. Oh, don't drop it. Don't drop it. Don't drop it. It's almost there. Oh! Didn't spill on my arm that time. You guys probably didn't guess that, did ya? Let's talk about some common misconceptions or cons for not having a buyer's agent. Oh, side note, always take a little bit of oil and put it on the gasket ring so it doesn't stick. Here's your oil tip for today. Misconception number one is that a lot of buyers think that if they don't use an agent, they will get a discount or a deal on their home because they don't have to pay the commission on it. Which I think is funny because almost every seller that I've worked with wants to pay a buyer's agent. So they've already agreed to pay our portion. So that's not an extra fee that's added onto their net sheet or anything. They've already ran those numbers and are okay with that. So the second one is, oh, I'll just go to the listing agent. The listing agent will help me. Most likely not true, because listing agents usually are listing heavy. So A, they don't want to work with buyers, usually. But even if they did, they don't want to represent the seller and the buyer because they've already agreed to work with the seller and represent them in their best interests. Explain to me, ethically, how can you have an agreement with someone that says, yes, I will do everything I can to sell your house for top dollar. But then when a buyer comes up and they're not represented, then they will also say, hey, buyer, I will now represent you in your best interests so that you can get the best deal possible on your home. That's conflict, just right away. The third misconception is that, oh, I'll just talk to the seller directly and we'll just negotiate back and forth, just in the driveway. This is not a garage sale, first of all. So that's not going to happen because the reason that they hired a real estate agent in the first place is so that they didn't have to do that. This isn't Facebook Marketplace, even though I love Facebook Marketplace. That is not how real estate works. Think of the seller in their shoes. They probably have a full-time job. They might have kids. They're moving. They have another purchase they might be trying to do as well. They have so many things on their plate. The last thing they want to do is schedule showings, talk to buyer's agents, negotiate with other agents as well. So that's why they hired a listing agent in the first place, so that they didn't have to talk to buyers. So think about it. As an unrepresented buyer who you don't want an agent for, you are going up most likely against a professional in the industry. That should just be red flags all over the place for, the majority of people. So the $1 million question, do you need a buyer's agent? The answer is no. Legally, you don't need one. But realistically, most buyers are going to benefit from having a professional guide them through the process, especially first-time home buyers or someone purchasing in a market that they're unfamiliar with. So let's talk about a scenario where you could go unrepresented. Let's say you're buying your childhood home from your parents and they're gifting it to you, or you're buying it from them, whatever. If it was just an off-market deal from family member to family member, no negotiations, that's when I could see you not needing an agent. Or if you're a savvy investor who has done it more than a dozen times and on the same building with the same seller, over and over, and they're constantly flipping, if you have that knowledge, then sure, you don't need representation. It can be done. But for the majority of people who purchase a home, maybe 1 to 4 times in their lifetime, if that, I would recommend that you do your research and understand why a good real estate agent that represents you as the buyer will help you tremendously. Not only during the transaction, but also afterwards. Your agent should be helping you for life. If you're still living in your home, like if you need contractors moving forward, or you have a roof leak, like I help my buyers and clients all the time, well after the transaction. At the end of the day, you don't just need someone to open doors. You need someone to save you money, protect your time, and also, and probably most importantly, protect your peace of mind. And that's what I do for my clients. Go away, fly. Oh my God. Well, if you've stuck around this long, congratulations. You just won yourself a free oil change. I'm kidding. But if you do need real estate help, I would love to help you. So feel free to give Ben, the Cowboy Realtor, a call. So have you ever tried to buy a home without an agent? Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you've been successful or if you have heard any horror stories about people not having a buyer's agent. Let me know. I'm curious to see what you guys think. This is Ben, the Cowboy Realtor, bringing you city smarts and country charm. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. I don't have the key. Where did I put the key? It was on the seat. All right, let's try that again. Thanks, guys, for sticking around this long. This is Ben, the Cowboy Realtor, and I hope you guys learned something today. And if you have any other tips, tricks, or things that you want to learn about in the real estate world, I'd love to help you. So thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.